Salutations YouTube, welcome back to another video. I hope you enjoyed last week's video of the 3 scary stories. So I thought I'd do another one. These 3 are creepier than last week's. So without further ado, get yourself a drink, get yourself a snack, make yourself comfortable, and we'll begin. This first story, we'll call the woman Minji. Minji is in her late 20s and works as an English tutor in South Korea. One evening a few years ago, she was tutoring a high school boy. They were up studying pretty late and the buses stopped running. Being a long way from his house, the boy asked if he could crash on her floor overnight and get the first bus the next morning. Minji was very reluctant because inviting a teenage male student to stay the night didn't sound like a great idea, but he was very persistent and she eventually relented. They went back to her one-room apartment and she got into the bed while he laid a blanket out on the floor and they both fell asleep. A few hours later, at maybe 2 a.m, the boy wakes Minji up. "I'm really hungry," he says. "Let's go get some food." Minji opens her eyes and looks at him in disbelief. "Food? Now? It's 2 a.m, go back to bed." But the student insists. "No, I'm so hungry, let's eat something now." She tells him that there's some ramen in the kitchen and that he can fix himself some. This doesn't satisfy him. He doesn't want ramen. "There's a 24-hour place just down the road. Let's go there. Come on." After several minutes of persuasion, the boy gets Minji to come with him to the restaurant. They leave the apartment and head out. As soon as they're on the street, the boy turns to Minji and says, "I'm not hungry. I woke up in the middle of the night and looked under your bed. There's a man sleeping there." They called the police and discovered that a homeless man had been living in Minji's apartment, sleeping under her bed for over 2 months. The boy only saw him because he was lying on the floor, so had a clear view under the bed. The police arrested the man and thankfully there were no other issues. Sort of ties into last week's episode where the woman drops her phone and sees a man under the bed and he's waiting with a knife. Then again, I think that one was more creepier than this one, so. This next one, I'm not gonna lie, I felt a shiver down my spine while writing it out. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself, something he was not very used to. The whole day was normal. Trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to his car. He figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. I think an 8-hour hike is more than enough. But that's just because I'm fat. The sky was already getting dark and he needed to get back, and fast. What was odd, however, was how much he didn't recognise the trail back. He began to panic. Night had already taken over and all he had was a flashlight and no clue on how to get back. He knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through the perilous forest. What would you people do in that situation? Let me know. He began to worry that he would have no shelter for the night when almost luckily enough he stumbled across a broken down cabin. It was dark and seemed like no one had visited it in years, but he knew it was the only place where he could rest until daylight, especially since his flashlight was already running out of battery. He knocked on the door a few times but no one answered, so he let himself in where strangely enough a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the centre. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind, or was probably even dead. Because that makes it a lot better, doesn't it? Sleeping in a dead man's bed. Muppet. So he went ahead and got himself comfortable in bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collection of paintings around the room. Portraits of strange-looking people all peering at him, each one wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, and he was able to ignore the faces and drifted off to sleep. The next morning he got up early and was shocked to see that there were no paintings around the room, but they were in fact windows. What do you think of that one then? That one was, I'm not gonna lie, when I was typing that out, I felt a shiver down my spine. That one genuinely gave me the chills. Anyway, I don't really scare easy, but if I was in that cabin, saw faces, one, that would creep me out. I don't think I would be able to sleep at all. But if I somehow did manage to sleep and the faces were gone and there were actually windows, I'd be out of that cabin straight a fucking away. Just gonna have a swig of my drink and then I'll give you the third and the last one. What are you eating and drinking, by the way? Let me know. I'm drinking, as if I need to tell you, Mango Monster. And this last story is somewhat similar to the last story of last week's video. About a guy hitchhiking, gets into the car, you know, that sort of shit. In the 1970s, a college student was leaving his campus and realised he didn't feel like walking, so he decided to hitchhike. When he got to the main road, he saw a car approaching, so he stuck out his thumb and the car pulled up beside him. The driver was a normal-looking guy and the student didn't feel in any way threatened by him. So we told the driver where he was going, and the driver smiled at him and said, "Sure, hop in." He got in the car and then the guy started driving. They were having normal conversations, laughing, joking, talking about mundane stuff. As the guy was driving, the student realised that he missed his turn-off. He turned to the driver and said, "Hey, you missed my turn-off, but if you want, you can drop me off here and I'm happy to walk the rest of the way. You know, it's not that big of a deal." At this, the driver's expression dropped. He turned to the student and said, "Oh, no, you're coming with me." The student, okay, what would you do in that situation? Let me know in the comments. I'm interested to read what you would do in that situation. The student felt a huge wave of panic. He realised that this was not an idle threat. When the car slowed for the traffic lights, he opened the passenger side door, jumped out, rolled a few feet and ran home. He wasn't really that injured, he was just a little bit banged up, a few cuts but nothing that bad. When he got home, he was thinking about calling the police, but there wasn't any really proof of a crime being committed. He wasn't physically hurt by the guy. As I said, he was just a little bit cut up from jumping out the car. And yeah, he made a threat, but it was ambiguous. 6 years later, the student is sitting in a cafe and he sees a guy on the news who had been arrested for multiple counts of murder. And it's the same guy who gave him a ride all those years ago. His name was John Wayne Gacy. He was a serial killer who brutally murdered 33 young men and boys and buried them in the crawl space of his house. He said that he removed the passenger door handle as his first victim had jumped out while the car was moving, so he made sure his next victim would not be able to do that. It's thought that the student was meant to be Gacy's first victim. And there we go. Those are the 3 stories. Let me know what you think of them. Do you want me to do more? Do you want me to get back on my true crime stuff? Or delve into something different? Let me know. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've unlisted all of my videos apart from my true crime and scary story stuff, because I want this channel just to be focused around that. New chapter, new stuff, you know, that sort of stuff. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere yet. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you want to see more, leave in the comments. And also, give me some suggestions on what you'd like to see in the future. So, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends, and until next time, peace.